We'll come back to this. First, we have our scripture.
I think I like this little guy.
I love this one.
You know, you could always compromise and breed them together. Dobra Wawa. Know what I mean?
I've never seen a breed like this.
Nor have I.
I don't know what to make of it, frankly.
It's unsettling. It's disturbing to look at it directly. How did this dog get past regions? That's what I want to know.
I'm Sarah McLaughlin. Will you help these misunderstood animals?
I don't like the fact that it's looking this way.
All right, that's it.
Save yourselves!
It's about compromise. No, you can't. But what happens when you compromise? So, you remember when you were in like preschool and you were told to share?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good compromise, right? Does that make sense? No, yeah, but that's a good compromise. But the experience with the Dober Wawa, did y'all notice that it became a bad thing to compromise? All right. So that's what our scripture's about. Who's got this today? Who's got this? Katie now. Can you read it? All right, you know how Revelations is kind of hard to read? Okay. Can y'all break that down?
Basically, I want all of you to know. Right?
Go big or go home? I like the go big or go home.
Okay.
Don't do it halfway. There really is right and there's wrong. There's not like this gray area. Yeah, be one or the other. Yeah, figure it out. Yeah, good for you. Yeah, you get it. You get it, right? Yeah. All right, good job. All right, Katie, who's praying for us today? You ready? Okay, get us up and going. Of 90s. Amen. Thanks, Marcella. Yeah, I get it. The 90s. That's the last time the Cowboys really did anything. Okay. I'm wearing the 2000s. Could y'all tell?
What you wearing never go that style.
That's true. But it was funny. I was looking at what I could wear for a decade, and I don't have anything older than the 2000s, but most of my clothes are about 10 years old, so I figured this would work. You all good with it? All right, here we go. You've got this guy. Y'all know him? Do you know him? You ever seen this guy? Who's he represent? No, this guy, I'm sorry. Okay, maybe a typical Walmart shopper. That's what Gabby says. What about this guy? Y'all know him? Businessman? He's like the Monopoly guy. He's a rich guy. Anyway, he's asking him a question. He says, I know you're against free trade as a former employee, but how do you feel about it as a consumer? So I discovered yesterday that for whatever reason, maybe y'all haven't been exposed to this vocabulary, but my other classes didn't know what we meant by free trade. Do y'all know what we mean by that? Free trade? No? Okay. I'll explain it. So basically, it's just trade without restrictions. You know how in the early days of our country, we had tariffs on imported goods? That's a restriction on trade, okay? So we don't have really big tariffs anymore, maybe on a few little things, but overall we have very low tariffs. So we have what we call free trade. So why is he both happy and sad about it? Can y'all tell?
Free trade as a consumer means businesses overseas will turn to us for their products,
Yeah, consumers can buy more because things become less expensive. But what about that guy? No, that's not it. Maybe. Have y'all ever heard of Yeah. Well, what's the big complaint about it? Y'all see this on the news. Aren't businesses moving overseas? When you call customer service, who do you talk to? A guy named Jeff, but where is he? Yeah, India. Okay, he used to work in an aglet factory, and that was his job. But now all the aglets are made where? China. Yeah, wherever. What's an aglet? Yeah, I got some. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, the point is that people worry about competition from other countries because they have cheaper labor and stuff like that. Well, look who's here again late. Do you want me to start calling you in the morning? Huh? They forget. Oh my gosh. Grace, you have to hear this. You have to hear this. I have a 12-year-old daughter. Okay? She wakes us up. Yeah, but she seriously, today I overslept. I didn't get up until like 6:20, okay? And whatever. I got up at 6:20 and we have to leave at 7, me and my daughter, because I drop her off. And my wife is like, "Oh my gosh, did Rebecca wake up?" And I stumble out, my half closed eyes, and there she is, eating breakfast, all ready to go. Why can't you do that? All right, so anyway, y'all are good on free trade, right? It just means without restrictions, no quotas, no tariffs. Everybody can sell to everybody else. We're free to buy from other countries. They're free to buy from us, okay? So today, this is the main thing we're going to get out of today. You guys are going to, we already know how to calculate opportunity cost, right? Okay, we're going to calculate that again using the production possibility curve. But then we're going to use it to discover comparative advantage. Does anybody know what that is? You do? All right. Mm-hmm. Yes. How do you know that? All right. You trying to get ahead? Or did you discover that you have a bad teacher and so you wanted to try to get somebody else? There you go. You earned a nickel. All right. So anyway, what she said is true. Comparative advantage is just whoever has the lowest opportunity cost in producing a good. So we're going to explore that today. And then we're going to discover how it is that if we trade based on this, two nations can become better off by supporting each other. Okay? So before we go, we could list some things. A lot of people don't like the fact that we trade with other nations. Okay? So what are some reasons why we wouldn't want to? You want stuff made here because you're American? All right. Oh, wow, y'all are good. Okay. Jobs here. Shelby's patriotic. Yeah, what else? Okay, lower prices for consumers. That would be the positive here. I should change what Dave is saying. Lower price for consumers. That's the good thing. All right. Everything kind of boils down to this, though. Okay? So we're going to explore some reasons that people give why we shouldn't trade, and then we're going to debunk those reasons. And then we're going to show you why it is that trade is actually beneficial. So here's one reason. Abraham Lincoln actually said this. He said that we shouldn't buy things from other countries because what ends up happening is they have all our money. Okay? And so back when he said that, that was somewhat true because what we used as money to trade with foreign nations was gold. And so if we send our gold to England, who then has the gold? Okay, and they can use that gold wherever they want. But the counterpoint is this. Money today is just currency. It's just the dollar bill. And if we send a bunch of dollars to China, what do they do with those dollars? Okay, they can convert it to their own currency, but then whoever's holding those dollars then, what do they do with them? They have to eventually be spent where? Here. Okay, so the fact that we give money in return for goods to other countries allows those other countries to then buy things from us. Okay, so the money always comes back home. So the point that England has the money, we have the coat, it's not really accurate today, because when we send them money, eventually they got to send it back. Okay? All right, cool? You don't see how it works? Because this is where it's good. Okay, but then who's holding that money? Who?
So you know, like when you go to the country store, they sell like swap outs and all.
Yeah, the swap out.
So once you give them your American money and you get euros, they have to do something with the American money.
Yeah, they got to do something with it. It eventually gets traded into, like maybe it could be maybe we give a bunch of money to China, and then they have to use that money here somehow. So what they actually end up doing is they buy bonds. They buy a lot of our debt. Sometimes they'll buy some. They'll invest here in capital. Okay. Well, and we're going to talk about that more another day. But today I just want y'all to understand very simplistically, or simply or simplistically.
Keep it simple.
All right. Either way, I just want to keep it simple, because basically in this class, it's a intro class, and we can't introduce all those complexities, okay? Because it would require like the third year of calculus. And are any of y'all in Calc 3? So it would require that. They wouldn't like it. Okay. Yeah. I didn't like it. All right, everybody okay with that? We give money to other countries, that way they can spend it here. Okay? Here's your next one, jobs. All right. We should protect American businesses from foreign competition, because that way American jobs will be saved. Okay? The counterpoint is this, and we're gonna demonstrate this graphically, just like a theoretical representation, and then I'm going to show you some real numbers to show you why this is false. Okay? The point here, though, is that few people are helped by protective measures. Okay? If we protect the aglet industry, that's fine. We're just going to have to pay more for shoelaces, right? So we're going to help those very few people that work in the aglet factory. But then everybody else is going to have to pay higher prices. So it helps a few, but it hurts a lot. Does that make sense? Okay. So can I roll? Huh? Word for word, no. In fact, you know, you don't even have to write this. Okay? This is what I wanted to show you. Okay? So in the 80s, anybody dressed like the 80s? It's kind of early 90s too. Okay. So restrictions on imported steel in the 80s. Okay, what happened is Japan, they were selling their steel on the world market for less than it cost us to produce our own. Okay? And so we wanted to save those jobs in some important electoral states, Pennsylvania. Okay? And so in the 80s, we put in restrictions on Japanese steel, tariffs to make it more expensive when it gets here, or quotas just to limit the amount that could be sold here. All right? So here's what happens. We're going to graph it. You ready? Go. All right. Remember I told you restrictions on trade help the few, but hurt the many? Right? Didn't I tell you all that? Okay. So what industry uses steel to produce things? Okay. Cars is the easy one, right? You could put like appliances, construction, all kinds of things use steel, right? So we learned in our first unit of study that, well, actually, y'all don't know this yet. Hold on. This supply curve of steel is made up of Japanese steel and U.S. steel, okay? So if we limit the amount of Japanese steel available in the United States, what happens to that supply curve? Yeah. So we cross that out. We get a new supply curve. What happens to the price of steel? It goes higher, okay? Now, how does that affect this industry? Okay, intuitively, you know cars are going to be more expensive. Graphically, how does that occur? No, if demand goes down, you have lower prices, so that can't be it. Yeah, we have a reduction in supply because those car manufacturers either have to, because steel is more expensive, they either have to buy less steel or, I mean, they have to buy less steel, okay? So the price of cars goes higher, all right? That's not the big deal yet. The big deal is this. When you're making this many cars, you needed X number of employees, right, to produce those cars? when you're only making this many cars, yeah. So jobs over here go down. Prices of all the things we pay go up. So that's what we mean by protecting the few at the expense of the many. So this impacts everybody while we're protecting one industry. Okay? So that's why economists don't like protectionism. Okay? So some real numbers now for that historical example. By the way, at the same time, they had to put in place import quotas on Japanese cars because the American cars weren't competitive. Okay, so they restricted that number. So that steel stuff, we saved 17,000 jobs in the steel industry. That's a lot of jobs, right? Okay, and we saved 4,600 in the car industry because of the quotas on those. The counterpoint is this. The higher steel prices resulted in job losses in other industries of 52,000. So you see how they don't balance out? Everybody get that? So we lost 52,000 jobs. In the auto industry, saving those jobs resulted in higher prices that amounted to $240,000 per job saved. So that's why economists don't like this, because it's not efficient. Remember, that's one of our goals, is to be efficient with our resources. So that's inefficient. Also, I didn't mention this. I just used the car example, but if you have to pay more for a car, what can you not buy then? Other goods, okay? And so that impacts those other industries as well. So the more you have to pay for protected goods, the less money you have to pay for other things, okay? All right.
Oh, that's not right.
Here's one. How do we compete with countries that have low wages? I mean, the point here is that we should restrict trade with those countries because their wages are too low. But why are their wages low? Huh? Well, yeah, they're competing with us, so yeah, that's true. The counterpoint, economists point to this. They say the reason other countries said, die, you wage-hiking scum. You haven't seen Zoolander? Y'all need to watch Zoolander. There's a lot of economic stuff in Zoolander. No, we can't watch it in here. I said we can't watch it in here. Wait, I got in trouble by a theology teacher. It's actually a highly inappropriate movie, but there are parts in it that have economic lessons. So, anyway, the counterpoint is this. The economists say that the reason they make low wages is because they have low productivity. Okay? Like, for example, in a free market where labor can move freely and earn what it's worth, we will all learn what we produce. Okay? It's called the marginal product of labor. You know, if me being here generated $50,000 of revenue for the school, what should I earn? I should earn that amount of money, right? So that's how this is supposed to work. So the reason they make low wages in other countries is because they're not as productive. And here's an example of what I mean. This is Bob, okay? Bob earns $30 an hour. That's pretty good money, okay? Jim, he only gets $10 an hour. Should Bob worry about Jim taking his job? Why not, Jessica? Well, I know Jim is making less, but maybe Jim's going to take his job. So should he worry about it? Tell them why not. Oh, you. Yeah. He gets a lot more work done. In fact, he gets a lot more than 3 times as much work done. So he should never worry about this guy with a shovel. He's got a big old bulldozer. There's no possible way a $10 an hour person is going to take his job. They are doing the same job. One of them's using a shovel, one of them's using a machine. Jim doesn't know how to use a bulldozer. The first day he got on this job, he was holding the shovel from the wrong end. There's no way he's going to drive a bulldozer. Yeah. Gil, you got to get the backstory before you start answering questions. This is a good video. You'll like this.
Outsourcing their jobs. For more on this crucial issue, let's go to Joshua Russell in the money room.
Thanks, Brandon. For years, corporations have been outsourcing their labor to developing nations as a way to cut costs. But recently, many individual employees have been sending their own work overseas.
I take the money that I would have spent on coffee and pay someone in India to do my job for me. It's allowed me to unleash my full potential.
Philadelphia accountant Donald Felton outsources the majority of his daily workload to Jahanara Kashyap, accountant based in Bangalore, India.
I get my assignment from a supervisor and I send it off to Jahanara. Sometimes I'll look at it when it's done, but usually everything's right.
Mr. Kashyap says he's extremely happy with the 68 cents an hour Donald pays him.
But I'm able to feed my family and Mr. Felton can devote more time to his fantasy football team.
And Donald is just one of the close to 700,000 workers who come to rely on overseas labor.
I've actually gotten 2 raises since Jahanara started. He's really good at doing my work.
But it's not just lower-level employees who've embraced the trend. In Donald's firm, many senior-level managers are now outsourcing their jobs as well. Workers representing the company's executive officers meet via conference call every Friday.
There is totally optimistic when agreement was cut. He feels very strongly we need to
Some overseas workers have done so. They've been able to outsource their own outsourced work to those even poorer than themselves. Analysts predict that if the trend continues by 2025, the world's poorest man, Ahmed Khalili of Afghanistan, will be doing 83% of the globe's work. It's a scenario that would suit Donald Felton just fine.
I'm trying to get to a point where I can just lay in one place and not have to do anything else.
So, quick question. Is it possible for Ahmed Khalili to do all the work? No. Even though he's willing to work for a lot less? He would do my job for probably $1 a day. You know what's not sad? The fact that we are outsourcing some jobs to these countries so that they can then have a way to make a living and improve their economic state. Isn't that good? Huh? Why? Well, why don't you take 2? Why won't you do it for 2? Whoa, you think you're better than them? I don't think you're better than them. I would love to pay you $2. Why can't I pay you $2?
As we have minimum wage. No, the thing is, they're saying it's okay, I'll do it for 2.
Yeah.
You say, no, I'm not going to abuse you.
What, you think they have a better offer somewhere, but they are forced to accept yours?
No.
All right. No, what ends up happening is this happens throughout history. Okay, developing countries, they attract labor jobs because they're willing to work for less. Okay, and then over decades, I mean it takes decades, they begin to make more and more money. In fact, China is not the go-to place anymore. They're starting to make too much money, and so like Bangladesh, Vietnam. Okay, I don't know, they're all drunk. So other places now are starting to get the jobs away from China. So it's a natural thing. You know what convergence is? Anybody? You've seen divergent, right? It's where things go different directions. Okay. If you look at, this is. Let's see. Let me see if I have a. Let me see if I have a clean sheet. I'll just put it on here. Hang on for your question. This is not something y'all need to know. But if you look at a graph, and we'll just call this, we'll put income over here. Y stands for income, okay? And this is like time, okay? What did our country look like as far as income in, say, 1780? We had pretty low income, right? Right around here. But as time went on, what happened to our income? Okay? So where are those countries like India today? They're around here. So what's going to happen with them in time? Well, actually, I'm sorry, they're here. But if we expand the time horizon, what happens? They're going to do this also. And so the goal for economists is that all the countries in the world get richer. And then you won't have that difference in wages. That's just the way it is. It's natural. I don't know that that's the case, but it could very well be that one day Chinese people and American people make the same amount of money and there won't be any kind of labor difference over there. Yeah, it'll happen. What do you think happened here in the United States? You had South and North. People in the South didn't make any money. So a lot of manufacturers moved from the North to the South. Were they taking advantage of the people in the South? Or were the people in the South happy to get those jobs? Hey, Gil. Yeah, I suppose. But the point we're making is that there's this convergence, so that eventually all the countries in the world will be at the same level. Nothing, it's all good. The view of economists is that the pie gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not like if China gets richer, we get poorer. That's not what happens. It's like we can both get richer. No, it's all good. Yes, sir. Yes, if it keeps going. If they don't do something about it, yes. Anyway, let's move on to this. This will blow you away. There was actually a guy in California who outsourced his work to China.
No.
Yes. He had a six-figure job. He was sending a lot of his work to somebody in China to do while he relaxed. He got caught and he got fired. Anyway, that's funny. Well, I don't know if it's illegal, but if your employer's paying you to do a job,
But then it's not super.
yeah.
But if you're getting part of being resourceful.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. All right, it's time to talk about trade, okay? We're going to look at how tariffs hurt this guy. Tariffs on cars hurt that guy. Is that hard to imagine? Hard to believe? All right, here we go. Who knows how to read? Oh, Ben. Okay, we're going to read a story. You can do it popcorn style. Okay, go ahead.
You are likely aware of the first to manufacture the product Kansas. First, it seems to the raw material. Then you wait a few months before you're loaded on the ships until the ship is feasible for use in the ocean. After a few months, the ship is returned with roads and highway cars.
Oh, sorry. Oh, there's more. Sorry.
International trade was undergoing more technology. Back there is a place called Japan. In fact, it's irrelevant to our well-being. When analyzing trade policies, we assume Japan is a giant factory that feed four quarters due to their price. Any policy that favors the first method of manufacture over the second is discriminating against American producers. In fact, protecting American automakers money from American farmers who gives money to use until the American farmers.
There you go. So basically, the work we do is what affords us to buy things. And if a policy is put in place to make those things more expensive in order to protect the maker of those things, then it's really taking money from us. It's discriminating against us. So I put a little note here. Our work effort is what affords us to buy what we want. And a policy that makes our work effort less valuable, according to economists, is wrong and inefficient. Make sense? So policymakers still do that sort of thing, but they weigh it out. They say, well, maybe there's a benefit in keeping the auto industry here strong, and it's worth it for everybody to pay a little bit more. Okay? I'm just saying economists find it inefficient because it doesn't put resources where they're supposed to be. All right, y'all ready? You don't have to write all that word for word. Can you even see where you are? Because you can move. You can move if you want. Who sits there? Oh, Z. Okay. Nobody sits behind you? Go. All right. So we learned last unit, like probably the second day of class, that this is the production possibility curve, right? And we learned that to make it go bigger, you have to have what happen? And resources. Okay, good. Or here's another one. So resources, blah, blah, blah. Trade. We're going to demonstrate today how this curve will shift outward by trading with other countries. Okay? So this guy, David Ricardo, did you read about him? No? Okay. He's the one that came up with the theory of comparative advantage. It's kind of funny, though, that it took that long for somebody to put a name to it, because we've actually used this theory for like millions of years. And I want to find a way to explain it. Comparative advantage just means somebody has a lower opportunity cost, right? So think back a million years ago. What type of person, let's see, you got two jobs to do, hunting and fishing. And you got two types of people, fast and strong, or slow and weak. Which of those two people should do the hunting? Why? Yeah. Yeah, if you took those guys and turned them into fishermen, you'd have to give up meat because they're producing a lot of meat. If you took the other guys, they would have to give up their fishing, which is they're probably better at. Okay, so that's how we trade based on comparative advantage. We're going to allow other countries to do things for us because they're better at it, because they can do it more cheaply. All right, and then just as a trivia thing, if we didn't trade with other countries, the world would be 28% less wealthy, okay, per year. So about 28% of our output, which is our income, is based on trade. So if we did away with trade, that would be a bad thing, okay? And it's changed over the decades. In the 1960s, anybody in the 60s? Get some tie-dye. You 60s? You remember this? Huh? Of the world's output is based on trade. Back in the 60s, though, it was only about 6%. But with technology, improved transportation, improved information systems, we trade more with other countries. And so now the global output of trade is about 28%. And just to bring it home, about $10,000 per U.S. family their income is based on trade. So if we didn't trade with China, for example, every U.S. family would be $10,000 poorer on average. All right, so examples of trade. These iPhones, they're made in China, right? So when China produces them and then we buy them, that's an import. That's trade, okay? If we put a tariff on those, they would be more expensive, right? Okay, it would encourage Apple to produce them here, but then they would also have to charge more. So this is good for us because if we can pay less for our phones, we can buy more other things, right? More food, other stuff. Anyway, those are imports. And then a little more stuff. Exports and imports. If you look at the list of things that we buy and sell, they look like the same stuff, don't they? Yeah, there's a reason for that. The United States doesn't decide what to trade with China, for example. We as individuals do. And so you could end up having, like Gil, maybe Gil would like to buy a computer from Japan. Okay, oh no, he's got a Dell. Thanks. Gil wants to buy a computer from Japan, but then maybe there's some guy in Germany who wants to buy a computer from the United States. Okay? So that's how it is that we'll import and we'll export the exact same types of goods. Okay? It's because individuals make choices. All right. Last bit of trivia before we start. Okay, most of our trade, actually this isn't trivia, y'all need to know this because there's a test question. Okay? On both of these. All right, most of our trade is with other industrial countries like ourselves. Okay? The reason most of it is because other industrial countries have money, so they can buy stuff from us, and other industrial countries make things that we can buy from them. Anybody know our biggest trading partner? China. No, wrong. That's number 2. No. No. You get a wrong answer. You get a wrong answer. No. You're close. And the reason you're close is because it's a neighbor. Yeah. It's Canada. Yeah. It's Canada, and the main reason is just because they're close. Okay? It's easy to trade with our neighbors. Do y'all buy your groceries in Arkansas or in Dallas? Yeah, so your biggest trading partner is close to you as well. Okay? What do we buy from them? Lumber, maple syrup, obviously. But cars. Oh, yeah, Canadian bacon. We buy a lot of cars from Canada. A lot of our auto manufacturers make their cars in Canada. What? You sure? Isn't that what they call the police up there? Yeah. No. All right. Never mind. Here's an infographic of that of some information. See, Canada's our biggest trading partner because our imports and our exports are about the same from there. The maroon line is imports, the green one is exports to these countries. So who's our biggest imbalance of trade with, just by looking at that? China. So we buy a lot from them, but they don't buy very much from us. Why do you keep buying from the grocery store, but they never buy from you? They have what you need, and you're willing to pay for it. Okay? So here it is. Canada's our number one, then China, then Mexico, then combined the European Union, then Japan, then we break it down by country, Germany. The closest one we actually have even trade with is the United Kingdom. We buy and sell about the same from each other. All right. Now the real learning takes place. If you're not trained in economics, you might think that absolute advantage would be important. We're about to define this, and then we're going to show you why it's not. You have a pregunta. You know absolute advantage also? What's that? You said enough. They can just produce more. Yeah, it doesn't take into account cost. It's just who can produce more. So we'll define them real quick. All right. So first of all, we already defined this. Comparative advantage just means a nation or a person or an entity, a company, whatever, can produce a good at a lower opportunity cost. So that means they have to give up less to make that good than somebody else would have to give up. Okay? That's comparative advantage. That's the one we're going to focus on today because it's important. Absolute advantage, this one can trick you if you think this is important. Okay? This just means somebody can produce more with the same inputs. Okay? So if you think about the United States, don't you think with our industrial base and our technology and our skilled workforce that we could actually produce more of pretty much anything than any other country? We probably could. Okay? So we have the absolute advantage in a lot of things. Another way to look at absolute advantage is just you can produce quicker, okay, more quickly, or you can produce more with fewer inputs, okay? But both of those have to do with the total amount that you can produce, okay? Between these two? Okay. There's two ways to measure absolute advantage. One is by outputs, the number that can be produced. Okay, whoever can produce more has absolute advantage. But then you can also look at it by who can produce with the fewest inputs. Okay, so if you can do something faster, you would have absolute advantage. Okay, the input would be labor time. All right. These two things are just they're just not important when we look at trade. Okay, these two are not going to be important. I'll show you a little bit more about them though, because you got to understand what they mean. Okay, so here is a T-SIP who can do 8 push-ups. Okay, then you've got a Texas Aggie who can do 42. So if you look at these two individuals, who has the absolute advantage in push-up production? The Aggie does, right? It's obvious. He can do 42. Now, who has the comparative advantage? The answer is there's no way of knowing. You don't have enough information. Okay? Yeah, we don't know. No, it's not the time. You don't have enough information. Because to get comparative advantage, we have to know what their opportunity costs are. Okay? His opportunity cost is that he was going to wash the Cheeto dust off his fingertips. Okay? The Aggie, he was going to save humanity. So which one of these guys should do push-ups? No. If he's doing push-ups, he can't save humanity, so he shouldn't do it. Yeah. So the Longhorn should do the push-ups. Even though he can't do as many, he's the one who should do them. That's what we mean by comparative advantage. So obviously, Aggies can do more than T-SIPs, and they're better at pretty much everything. But that doesn't mean they should do everything. Okay? My daughter does. All right. Here it is with inputs. All right. You got a Razorback who can deliver a pizza in 30 minutes. It's pretty good, right? He could work for Domino's. This guy here He's more efficient. He can do it in 10 minutes. Okay, so the Red Raider has the absolute advantage in pizza delivery, but which one of them should do the pizza delivery? Again, we don't know. There's not enough information.
So there is, because obviously he just graduated, so he has more potential than the guy in the
Okay, all right. I'll give her a nickel. Gabby said, obviously the Red Raider should not, because he has more opportunity to do other things because he's graduated. Okay? He's still in school, so he has less to give up. The Razorback does. All right, that's good. All right. Actually, it turns out it's the Red Raider who's delivering the pizza. Well, have you ever heard the joke? How do you get a Red Raider off your front porch?
I don't want to hear it because I've never heard that.
Pay for the pizza. Pay for the pizza. All right, just kidding. My brother and sister went to Texas Tech, so it's all good. All right. I was an economics major at A&M, and I married my wife right out of college, and I convinced her that our lifestyle should be based on comparative advantage. Okay, so we got married.
Is that you?
Yeah. Okay. Check it out though. We divided up our household chores based on comparative advantage. Okay. She did the inside work because she was better at it. I did the outside work because I was better at it. Okay? That's how it works. And then when we started having kids, guess who stayed home? She did. You know why? It's not even that much. It's because her job didn't pay as much as my job. So would it make sense for me to quit my job and stay home with the kids? No. We had 4 kids. No, we had them all. Well, this is Colby down here. He lived with us for a couple of years, but he moved in with his aunt this year, so we used to have 5. Anyway, the whole point is this. In life, we oftentimes use comparative advantage, and we didn't even know it, okay? The fact that if I stayed home, I'd have to give up a huge salary, whereas when she stayed home, she didn't. It made sense for her to stay home, okay? All right, by the way, this is the other reason I couldn't stay home. All these pictures. That one's really bad. It's inappropriate. This is a horrible, horrible thing. This is also bad parenting, letting them play poker. Terrible, terrible. That's cute, right? She honestly looks like she's having fun. All right. So let's see if we learned anything yet. USA can produce 60 tons of corn, Australia 40. What kind of advantage does the USA have? Absolute. Good. It's absolute. We don't know about comparative. All right, so now we're going to learn about comparative. In order to actually compare 2 countries, we have to figure out their opportunity costs. So here's one right here. This is Haiti. What can Haiti produce? Bread and coffee. You got it. All right. So the maximum amount of coffee they could produce is 80 units. The maximum amount of bread is 20 units, right? Or they could produce 40 coffee and 10 bread, or they could produce at this point, or at this point, or anywhere inside their curve, right? But what that curve represents the efficient use of all resources, right? So that means that this point here is equal in terms of resources to this one, and this one up here is also equal, right? All right, good. So now we can say this with certainty. 80 coffees then must be equal to 20 breads. So far so good? Okay. That means that 1 bread is equal to how many coffees? 4. Okay? We just got their opportunity cost of producing bread. They have to give up 4 coffees every time they make a bread. Agreed? Or they have to give up 1/4 of a bread every time they make a coffee. So far so good, guys? All right. Oh, I forgot to give y'all something. All right, hold on. Yes, ma'am. I'll pass this out to you real quick. Because we're going to do a lot of math examples, and I don't want y'all lost, and I don't want you to spend a lot of time writing pictures or drawing pictures, I'm going to hand out this little handout for you. If you'd like, you can take notes on it. Do what? I know, that's thoughtful. Oops. 2, 3, 4. All I don't care if you use it. I'm just saying y'all can, that way we can go faster. Yeah, you already had that? Where'd you get that? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you printed the whole notes sheet. Oh, okay. That's cool. Right, I agree. Okay. So here we have both. Now we're going to compare Haiti with Cuba. Okay. So let's see. We already calculated Haiti, right? We figured out that 1 bread is equal to 4 coffees, and 1/4 of a bread was equal to 1 coffee. Sorry if that's messy. Can y'all see okay though? Okay. Now we're going to do it for Cuba. Actually, Gabby, you're going to do this for us. All right. How do I calculate Cuba's opportunity cost of producing? 90 equals 15? Or is it 90 something equals 15 something? Coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, good. All right. I want you to divide both sides by 15. What do we get? Good. Everybody get that? Okay. And we can carry it further. 1 coffee then is 1/6 of a bread. Okay? So at this point in time, let's answer these questions before we go. Who has absolute advantage in bread? Haiti. Okay? That's it. Whatever. And who has it in coffee? Cuba. That's just because they can produce more. Okay? We're just pointing that out. Actually, I don't know why we're doing it. Z, why are you late? All right, fine. Well, you're in time for the good stuff. Okay. Comparative advantage in bread now. Can y'all tell? Katie and I, who's got the comparative advantage in bread? Huh? Yeah, you do. We do know. Here's why. Okay? Because comparative advantage is who can produce at a lower productive opportunity cost. So we calculated opportunity cost with these numbers. Okay? I'm sorry this one's hard to read, but that side of the board doesn't calibrate very well. All right, so what do we got? Haiti. All right. Now, you guys, it's actually coincidental that Haiti has absolute and comparative advantage in bread. That is not always the case. Okay? All right, Marcella, who's then got it with coffee? Cuba. Okay? There's 2 ways you know, by the way. Can you tell me one of the ways that you knew that? Yeah, this 1/6 of a bread is less than 1/4 of a bread. Okay? So the coffee production has an opportunity cost that's lower in Cuba than in Haiti. Everybody good? Hold, you're getting ahead of us. You just wait. All right. There's another way that you knew that, though. Or maybe you didn't, Marcella, but can you think of another reason why? Oh, yeah. All right. So, Katie, here's the other reason why. A nation can only have comparative advantage in one good when you're comparing 2 goods. Okay? So the other reason we knew that it was Cuba for coffee is because Haiti had it with bread. That means Cuba has to have it in coffee. Everybody good with that? That's important, because I don't want anybody in here to tell me that Haiti has comparative advantage in both, because that's not possible. All right? Ever. Never, never, ever, ever. Now, what if they had the exact same ratios? Then either you could say they both have it in both, or neither of them have it in either. Yeah, they're equal. So, but if they have different, numbers, then one's going to have it in one, one's going to have it in the other. Okay? All right, so now we get back to Gabby's question. So basically, if these 2 people hook up, Haiti and Cuba, kind of like I did with my wife, they're going to share the work now, okay? One of them's going to make coffee, one of them's going to make bread. So who's going to make the bread? Haiti, okay? So they're going to, basically, they were here on their PPC. They're going to move over here and make nothing but bread, which means, Gabby, they're going to export bread, okay? Yeah, so Haiti's going to export bread. Cuba, they were sitting here on their PPC, minding their own business, just producing their own coffee and bread, and everything was good. But now they discovered that Haiti can make bread for much cheaper than they can do it. So they're going to concentrate on coffee. So they're going to move to this point on their PPC. Okay? That's how it is that Haiti can then import coffee from Cuba. So Cuba is going to export coffee, and they're going to buy their bread from Haiti. Cool deal? All right, here's what we haven't figured out yet, though. What should the price of bread be? Let's figure this out. Who here would like to be Haiti? We're going to do an empathy exercise. Okay. All right, Gabby's Haiti. Who would like to be Cuba? You're going to be Cuba? All right, good. Y'all have to negotiate. Yeah. You're selling bread. You're buying bread. You're paying with coffee. You're going to accept coffee. So y'all determine how much you want. How much coffee do you want for your bread? Tell Ben. She wants a lot. Are you going to count her, or are you going to give her a lot? He wants to know a number. A lot doesn't tell him anything.
No, the real question is how much bread does he want?
No. You have to set a price. How much does it cost you to make bread?
A lot.
How much? A lot doesn't cut it. It costs you 4 coffees to make bread, right?
So if you want 2 loaves of bread,
Okay, she wants 6 coffees per bread. What do you say? Why are you disagreeing with that? It's okay that you are. Why is he feeling ripped off, Aiden? Help him out. You can be his conciliary or his consigliere, whatever. You're his counselor. Oh, Courtney. All right, so Gabby, 6 coffees for bread? That's what it cost him to make it himself. She says 5. You good? Gabby says, you said 4? Oh, she should just make her own coffee. All right, so y'all agreed 5, right? That's actually how it works. Okay, that's how negotiations work. Y'all ever haggled? You ever gone to, I don't know, flea market or something? All right. So basically, this is what we just figured out, guys. We figured out the terms of trade, okay? In order for them to actually trade with each other, there has to be mutually beneficial trade, okay? It has to help Ben, who is Cuba, and it had to help Gabby, who is Haiti, okay? At a price of 1 bread equals 5 coffees, Ben can get his bread for less than it cost him to make it himself, and Gabby can sell her bread for more than it cost her to make it. That's good for both, right? All right, good deal. Now, we'll make an assumption, okay? We're going to carry this terms of trade down and just say the whole world now, the world price of bread is 5 coffees, okay? And then we're going to say that 1/5 of a bread is the price of 1 coffee, okay? Now, watch what happens. We're going to do this mathematically at the end of class, but graphically I'm going to show you how both countries now benefit, okay? Let's just use black. So, Gabby, if you sell all 20 of your breads, how much total coffee could you get? 100, right? So now what you've done is you've made all of your resources equivalent to 100 coffee. Okay? So this expands up. Oh man, you cannot read that at all. Anyway, you've expanded your PPC. Okay? You pivoted it out so that you can now get more coffee than you used to get. Okay? So now instead of producing here to get your coffee and your bread, you can actually go out here and have more coffee with the same amount of bread, or you could go further off and you could get more bread with the same amount of coffee. Whatever, you're getting more, right? All right, let's see what happens with Ben. Ben, you sell all 90 of your coffee for bread. How much bread can you get? Yeah, I gave you the harder math problem. Just divide by 5. You can use me as a calculator if you want. Okay, tell me what to punch in. 18. Okay? I've done this a few times. All right. And so now Cuba can also consume more bread and more coffee with the same resources they had before. So you see how it's good for them? All right. So that's how we have to do this. If we want to calculate comparative advantage and then determine who's going to specialize in what good, this is how we do it. Okay? So basically we just demonstrated that Haiti can now get that much more in coffee, which means their PPC, it's not really a PPC anymore, it's called a consumption possibility curve. It shifts outward so that they can now have more of both goods. Pretty cool, right? Yay! All right. They do. That's why we trade with China. You get it? All right. So far, have we gotten this down? We've achieved our objective for the most part. Okay, we're going to expand on it and make it even more difficult. What time we get out? 9:50? We're doing great. All right. Let me show you the assumptions we have to make to do this. Okay? Because in the real world, that curve isn't a straight line. It's a function that's all crazy. Okay? And so you would have to use your calculus to do it. So in our class, the assumptions are these. We have two isolated nations. Okay? We have to assume a constant cost curve. Otherwise, we have to actually make the calculation at every single point on the curve, which is ridiculous. Okay? We assume they have different domestic costs. Okay? Otherwise, the opportunity cost would be the same and there would be no need to trade. Okay? We assume that prior to trade, each country is making a self-sufficiency output mix. That means they're satisfying their own needs. Okay? But then they're going to trade according to comparative advantage, and that's how they end up more than meeting their self-sufficiency output. So with trade, I didn't mention this. We should talk about this. With trade, a few people lose a lot. So what happened to the coffee producers in Haiti in our scenario? What happened to those people? What?
They have money.
Why are they out of money, honey?
Because they don't want coffee. They're buying coffee. They're not buying coffee anymore.
Yeah, so what happens to their jobs? Yeah, the coffee guys, they lost their jobs. And in Cuba, what happened to the bread guys? They lost their jobs. So what's going to happen? They might fight. Okay. No, what's going to end up happening is either the people who made coffee in Haiti are going to move to Cuba and make coffee, or they're going to learn new skills and learn how to make bread. Okay? That's what's going to happen. So a few people lose a lot, but then everybody else gains. And so that's the point of trade. Is that yes, it hurts some, but it helps most. All right, y'all ready to roll? Okay. I'll wait for you. Yes, with trade, a few people lose a lot, comma. A lot of people gain a little. Freer trade is like improved technology. It isn't. And most people, yeah, that's good enough. Y'all got it. All right, another example. Actually, let's have one of y'all do it. Kubi, can you come calculate Brazil's opportunity costs? Oh, and then Courtney, she can do Chile. Okay, good. Come on, I'll help you. Come on. Yeah, come here. Come here. Yeah, come here. Courtney, come do Chile. All right, go ahead. I want you to use the pen. You get to pick any color you want. All right. No, not the terms of trade. Up here. I want you to do the opportunity costs. Yeah, but do it in longhand so they understand. Okay. Hey, Kubi is going, she already calculated it, but I want her to do it longhand so that y'all will know how she got her number. So do like the 3 wheat equals and stuff. Okay. Perfecto. All right. Is that one hard? All right. Y'all see how she did that? That's too easy. All right, Courtney, do the rest. Yeah, do Chili's. And then I want you two to negotiate to get the terms of trade. Oh, actually, y'all should figure out which one of you is going to produce wheat and which one of you is going to produce steel. We should do that too. All right, so y'all are getting together. Which one of you is going to produce wheat? Which one of you is going to produce steel? You agree with that? All right, so Courtney's going to make the wheat because she's Chile. You're going to make the steel because you're Brazil. All right, cool. So y'all want to negotiate, figure out what your pricing is going to be? Do you agree with that? She said 1 wheat equals 3 steels. That's going to be the pricing. All right, good. Thanks, guys. Y'all are awesome. Yeah, the terms of trade then are going to be this number. 1 wheat equals 3 steels. Okay? Why'd they pick that? Well, turned out, let's see, Brazil's going to make steel. Chile's going to make wheat. Okay? By the way, you see here that Chile has absolute advantage in both goods. So if you didn't know anything about comparative advantage, you would think that Chile doesn't even need Brazil. We don't need those guys. We shouldn't trade with them. Okay? But now that you know about comparative advantage, Chile should concentrate on wheat, Brazil should do steel, and then they should trade with each other. And so the terms of trade are 1 wheat equals 3 steels. Okay? Y'all good on that? It's not too bad? All right. What else should we do? Let's expand their PPCs. Let's show what that looks like. So if they trade all of their wheat for steel, how much steel can Chile get? 30? Okay. So that's what their new PPC would look like. And if Brazil traded all their steel for wheat, how many could they get? 4? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. 4. Boom. Okay, so what we did was we took the terms of trade, which is 1 wheat equals 3 steels. We're transferring that over here to make that the whole world is paying that, okay? So that means that Chile could sell all 10 of their wheat and get 3 steels per wheat for it. That's how we got the 30, okay? Conversely, that means 1/3 of a wheat is equal to 1 steel. So if Brazil sold all their steel times 1/3, yeah, it gives us 4 wheats. Cool? All right. Y'all good? Y'all ready to complicate it? All right. Let's complicate it. We have new data here. It says here that Djibouti and Canada, they produce fish and wheat, and it tells us the hours it takes to produce each good, not how much they can produce. Okay? So just looking at that, can y'all tell, let's answer this first question. Djibouti or Canada has absolute advantage in both commodities? Why did you say Djibouti? They can do it faster, okay? Y'all get that? Okay, so when we're looking at the length of time it takes or any other input, okay, maybe you're comparing 2 farmers and you need to know how many acres each one requires to produce a set amount of corn, okay? It's the inputs. Okay, so 10 hours is a lot faster than 20 hours. That's why Djibouti has absolute advantage in fish. Same thing with wheat. Okay, but to do our calculations, we have to change those inputs into outputs. Okay, so yeah, we're going to turn them into products. So I want y'all to think back. Luke, I don't know if they teach you this in Calc 3. Least common multiple. Yeah. I want to know the least common multiple of 10, 20, 20, and 60. Good. Most people, when I ask them that, they come up with like 2, because they're going factor instead of whatever. All right, good. So least common multiple 60. The reason I picked 60 is just to make the math easy. Okay, when you start doing your homework, you're going to find faster ways for you to do this, but I want to do it like this so that you can see where the numbers come from. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. In order to turn the inputs into outputs, we're going to tell both of these countries that they have 60 hours, and in 60 hours, how much fish can you produce? Okay? Cool with that? All right. So in 60 hours, Djibouti can produce how much fish? I heard somebody say it. 6. Okay? In 60 hours, how much can Canada produce? No, fish. 3. Okay? So this kind of confirms our assessment on absolute advantage, doesn't it? Djibouti can produce more fish than Canada, 6 versus 3. So that's good so far? Okay. In the same 60 hours, if they used it all for wheat, how much wheat can Djibouti produce? 3. Or Canada can produce 1. All right. So who has the low? Oh no, let's simplify this one. Sorry. 1 wheat equals how much fish? Or 1 fish equals how much wheat? 1/2. Over here, we've already got the wheat, but then 1 fish is 1/3 wheat. All right, cool. So now we can calculate comparative advantage, right? Or we can assess it. There's no calculation. So who has the lowest opportunity cost in producing wheat? Who said Canada? Yeah, it's Djibouti. Why is it Djibouti? Yeah. So Djibouti, here's the numbers we're looking at. To calculate the comparative advantage for wheat, we just got to see who has the lowest cost in producing wheat. So it's Djibouti because they only have to give up 2 fish to make wheat. Cool? Now that we know they have it for wheat, who has it for fish? Canada has to because Djibouti can't have it in both. Okay? But let's compare. 1 fish equals 1/3 of a wheat versus 1/2 of a wheat. 1/3 is smaller. Okay? So now these two countries, this is how they're going to specialize. Canada's, whoops, I messed that up. Circle the wrong thing. Canada then is going to produce fish. Djibouti then is going to produce wheat. Y'all happy with that? All right, what should be the terms of trade? Leslie, can you do the terms of trade? Or do you want to do a negotiation exercise? What do I mean by terms of trade? So these two countries are now going to trade each other for their fish and their wheat, okay? In fact, we're going to do the negotiation exercise. You get to be Canada. Grace gets to be Djibouti. Grace, you're going to sell her wheat. Y'all need to decide how many fish she needs to give you for that wheat, okay? Y'all start negotiating. You want to offer that? Okay, she says she will sell you her fish, or I mean her wheat, if you give her 2.5 fish per wheat. Leslie says that's okay. Y'all good? All right. Yeah, y'all were not hard-nosed negotiators at all, okay? Well, maybe she'll sell 2 wheats for 5 fish. Come on, Shelby, think inside the box. All right. So 1 wheat will equal 2.5 fish. So in order for trade to actually occur, it has to be good for both of them. Okay? The price of 2.5 fish per wheat, that's good for both. Okay? Djibouti's making a profit on their wheat, and then Canada's able to get more wheat per fish than they could do it on their own. Cool? All right, you ready to complicate it again? Do y'all want to do another one like this? Okay, we'll do one more like this. We'll go quickly though, and then we're going to complicate it. Oh, where's Djibouti? Do y'all know? Y'all are good. Y'all took geography. There it is. Is it Djibouti? Djibouti. All right. Now we're going to look at Russia and the USA. They produce caviar and wheat. Okay. Pretty cool. So how do I turn the inputs into outputs? No? Did y'all hear what Ben did? I'm glad you did this. Let's run a parallel example, okay? Because some of y'all are going to do this, and you're going to get your answer completely opposite, okay? So we're going to run parallel here. This was actually important. Ben said 6 caviar equals 3 wheat. Okay? So we're going to set this aside for a second. And then do the same thing over here. We're going to say 16 caviar equals 4 wheat. And we're going to set that one aside as well. All right? Now we're going to do it the way I told y'all to do it, okay? So what was that, Aiden? LCM. LCM. Pick the least common multiple first. Okay, of these 4 numbers, 6, 3, 16, and 4. All right, that's a good answer. Courtney, 48, okay? So we're going to choose this number. No, because 3 doesn't go into 16. Yeah. Well, you just do it in your head. I mean, I don't know the quick way. Remember multiplication tables in 3rd grade? You remember doing that? So here's how you could do it. Let's double this first. Actually, does 3 go into 16? No, so we can't use that. So it's double 16. Does 3 go into 32? Darn. Okay, we got a triple 16. Does 3 go into 48? Okay. Does 4 go into 48? Okay. Does 6 go into 48? That's how we do it. Okay. So it's just a process of elimination. All right. Yeah, you just got to figure it out. And you don't have to use least common multiple. We could actually do this with 4,800. You want to do it like that? No? Okay. All right. Yeah. All right, here we go. 48 hours, okay, is what each country has. So in 48 hours, how much caviar can the USA produce? 8, okay. So we're going to run this next to our parallel. And in 48 hours, how much wheat can they produce? 16. All right, so that means 1 caviar is 2 wheat, and half a caviar is 1 wheat. And then in Russia, in 48 hours, how much caviar can they produce? 3. How much wheat? 12. Or 1 caviar then is 4 wheat. 1 wheat then is 1/4 caviar. All right, cool. Aiden. Okay. I told both countries that you have 48 hours. How much wheat can you produce for me in 48 hours? So the USA said, well, it only takes us 3 hours to make wheat. So in 48 hours, we can make 16 of them. And so we got 16 wheat. Yeah. And then for caviar, they took 48 hours divided by 6, and they got 8. Okay? All right. So what do we end up with? Comparative advantage in wheat goes to whom? Russia. Okay, they're going to make wheat because 1/4 caviar is less than 1/2 caviar. Okay, and that means USA is going to make caviar because 2 wheat is less than 4 wheat. Okay, so if y'all don't convert the inputs into outputs like we just did, you're going to get exactly the 180-degree wrong answer. Because now when we do this in our parallel side, we came up with 1 wheat equals 4 caviar. And over here, we came up with 1 wheat equals 2 caviar. It makes it look like USA has it in wheat, right? But that's exactly opposite. So don't do this. That's why the important thing is to first recognize, is it an input problem or an output problem? If you're given the amount of time it takes, it's definitely an input problem. Or if you're given any other input to production, then it's going to be an input problem. The ones on your homework are all time, I believe, unless I use an acreage one. Okay? So let's do this. First, with the correct answer, wins. The data up here is hours to produce a unit of food or clothing. These are your answer choices, true, false questions each. Okay? It's whatever number is between their two costs. Oh, just do it on paper. Gabby. Let me go back. 1 caviar for 3 wheat. Okay? All right, go. All right. This is actually an AP exam question. It's also representative of the type of question you'll see on your next test. Yeah, Ducky and Wookie. You done? All right, Jonathan, what's the answer?
So Wookie has comparative advantage in both.
Oh, darn. Jonathan, they can't have comparative advantage in both.
Absolute advantage. And then Ducky has comparative advantage in food production. Wookie has comparative advantage in clothing production.
All right. Jonathan is right. The answer is C. Okay? It didn't ask about absolute advantage. But yeah, what you said is right. So let's see how we did that. Input problem, right? Least common multiple, 100? Okay? So these 20 hours of food, 20 hours to produce food becomes 5 food, which is going to then be equal to 2 clothings, right? And on this one, you end up with 10 food equals 5 clothing, okay? So for Wookie, their opportunity cost of producing, let's see, Wookie is 5C equals 10F, so let's just do 1C equals 2F, okay? Over here, it was 1C equals 2.5F, right? So who has comparative advantage in clothing production? Wookie, which means Ducky has to have it in food. So that's how we get C. Cool? It's a little tricky. Okay? All right, the last thing, we have 6 minutes? Okay. So we already know how to calculate opportunity cost, right? And we're all good on comparative advantage, right? So now we're going to find actual numerical totals for the gains from trade. Instead of showing it in a picture with a graph, we're going to actually come up with a total number, okay? So here's what we got to do first. We have to make assumptions. We're going to make the case that both of these countries are currently producing for their own consumption at point C on their PPC. Okay? You all recognize that these are all points on a PPC. Okay? So they both produce soup and peanuts. Right now, Waggy is producing 10 soup and 30 peanuts for their own consumption. Doggy is producing 30 and 30 for their own consumption. But they've decided they're going to produce for each other and trade. Okay? And we're going to see how much they can benefit. So let's do our opportunity costs first. Let's see, over here, it looks like 60 soup is equal to 60 peanuts. Who needs explanation where those numbers came from? Good job. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at their extreme points on their PPC, and those 2 points are equal to each other, right? So that's why 60 soup is equal to 60 peanuts. So far, so good? All right. That means basically their cost is 1 soup for 1 peanut. Easy going. Over here, again, we're going to use their extreme points. And we're going to say that 20 soup is equal to 60 peanuts. That's a 60. Okay? That means one soup costs them 3 peanuts to produce. So now that we know what it costs to produce each good in each country, who should make soup? Okay. Doggy has the lower opportunity cost, so they're no longer going to produce at point C. They're going to move over here and produce at point A. Y'all cool with that? All right. That means Woggy, just by default, what are they going to produce? Okay. They're going to start making the peanuts. Now, let's confirm our math, though. 1 peanut equals 1/3 of a soup. 1/3 of a soup is definitely lower in cost than 1 soup, right? So they're going to make the peanuts. All right, good. Let's erase these other numbers now. I don't want y'all confused with these. Okay? So everybody know why they've moved production to those 2 points? All right. Now, let's do some just quick deciphering here. We've got soup, peanuts, and before trade, okay, before they began trading with one another, what was their combined production of soup? $40, okay? And what was their combined production of peanuts? 60. All right. And now they're going to specialize. Specializing allows them to produce what they're best at. And so now that what's their combined production of soup? Okay, who wants the explanation where 60 comes from? All right, good. So at this point over here, Doggy's producing 60 soup. At this point over here, Woggy's producing 0. So their combined production is 60. Okay? Good. So Stephanie, how much peanuts are being produced then? Good. Okay? Because they're producing 0, and Woggy's producing 60. So far, we're good? All right. So now, the gains. How many soups were gained by doing this? 20. What about peanuts? 0. So the total gains from trade are 20 soups. How do you like it? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Gabby, what are the terms of trade? When they trade with each other? 1 soup should equal how many peanuts? 2. Okay? We just took the cost that's between theirs. So the 1 soup equals 3 peanuts for Woggy. 1 soup equals 1. The number in between is 2, so that's what they're going to trade at.